Welcome to Sacrilegious Discourse.
For this is what the Sovereign Lord says.
Why do you need prophets to tell people who you are and what you want?
If you can justify everything that the God of the Bible has done, then you can justify any of your behavior.
A lot of this mentality is trickling into what is now mainstream right-wing Christianity.
I am capable of empathy greater than this God of the Bible.
This is a Bible that they tell kids. This is the good Lord. This is the good book. He is fantasizing about murder, mass murder.
Head over to sacrilegiousdiscourse.com right now to find out how to leave us a review or support us on Patreon.
Hey there, sinners and saints. It's your favorite Bible-bashing duo from Sacrilegious Discourse, and we need your help.
That's right, folks. We're raising funds for some heavenly equipment and a studio that doesn't sound like it's in the depths of hell.
Our current setup, let's just say it's more apocalypse than audiophile.
So if you want to hear us dissect the Bible without the background noise of demonic squirrels, chip in a few bucks.
We're aiming for $5,000 to upgrade our audio and build a studio worthy of blasphemous banter.
Donate today and help us spread the good word of atheism.
You can find a link right on our homepage, sacrilegiousdiscourse.com. Every dollar counts.
Even if it's from your collection plate. Husband!
Wife.
Do you know what we're doing today?
Well, I think we are doing a Q&A.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were going to move on to chapter, 12? But then I was like, hold up.
There's a lot.
There's a lot. And you were asking me questions in chapter 11 that I was like, hang on. And I kind of knew stuff, but only because I'd seen notes. And I was like, we need to do a 9, 10, 11 Q&A. And then we'll do a 12, 13, 14 Q&A. And then we'll wrap up the book that way.
Right. I do want to say we're probably going to be on a short break again. And we want to apologize for that. We've got a sick cat. We've got family things happening that we're having to fill in house sitting stuff for. And there's a lot of things going on right now in our lives. So we apologize, but we will be back, and just wanted to give everybody a heads up that it'll be maybe a few days, possibly even a week before we get back to this. So
I had a death in the family, like not like super close. It was like an extended relative,
right.
But because of that, my parents had to drive across the country to go be with their family. And now I'm taking care of their pet while husband is trying to nurse our sick pet. And then I was a little bit sick on top of that. And just,
yeah. It's all the things always all at once.
When it rains, it pours.
Right.
And sorry about that, guys.
Yeah. So anyway, we're getting into the Q&A for,
Zechariah, chapters 9, 10, 11.
Okay. All right. Are you ready to do this?
I am.
Let's do it.
Okie dokie. All right. I don't know if you recall, but chapters 1 through 8 of Zechariah were like Zechariah.
Yeah.
Telling
or at
the
least,
story.
More likely Zechariah.
Yeah. Zechariah or Zechariah adjacent.
Right. Yeah.
But 9 and up, 9 through 14 were very likely either somebody else 100 years later, or even a couple hundred years later, maybe somebody in his school or Jeremiah's school or something like that.
Or somebody. Yeah. Or somebody's.
That's
what I was saying. Yeah.
Some Christian scholars believe that the two oracles that make up the remainder of chapters 9 through 14 came from Zechariah in his old age, but most actual non-Christian scholars are like, I don't think so, bruh.
Right. That sounds apologist driven there.
Yeah. So even they acknowledge it's not the same. And they're like, but here's why. And we're like, probably not. But thank you for at least admitting it's not the same.
Sure.
I appreciate that you are willing to go out on that limb.
Right, I guess. But it's the same pattern throughout the whole Old Testament, where you have like these broken up books that are written by multiple different groups or people or whatever, and it's so fucking obvious as you go through all this stuff. Like, there's no question that this was written by a different person in a different time because of the words they use.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very apparent. And I love, I mean, I'm going to do a shout out for somebody else here, but Dan McClellan, like he, if you look him up, he does a lot of deep dives, and he's a very, very good biblical scholar that it's just fun to listen to him tear these things apart, you know, and it's true. Like you can very much tell that they are not written by the same person. So.
Right. Which is it shouldn't be like, oh, that's too bad. It's interesting. It's history.
Right,
it's cool.
No, if I was actually religious, I think I'd want to dive into that more and find, like, you know, I don't understand the lack of curiosity, right?
And we've talked about that so many times.
You and I don't have any, you know, biblical scholarship at all, other than what we've done through this podcast. And it's obvious to us, just reading through, that this stuff is not written by the same person.
We don't have any skin in the game. We don't have any emotions to lose over it. So we're just straight up curious.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I'm interested in something, I'm curious and I want to know everything about it. So it just strikes me as really odd that people are like interested in God, but they're not, though. They're not interested in God.
I have to believe that if I thought that I could talk to my relatives and family after I died, that I'd want to find out, you know, how real that is before I died.
Yeah.
I'd be very fucking interested.
But,
you know,
they just take it at face value, which shows me they just don't have any interest in it. There is a very strong lack of interest.
No, they don't want to know. They want to believe. They don't want to know.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah.
And
I want to know.
I'm going to continue to want to know.
Yep. And that's why we'll always be young at heart.
And that's why we'll always probably be atheists, unless there's just like some direct fucking intervention by a God. So, you know.
Yep. That is true. So when we hop into chapter 9, at this point, Syria, Phoenicia, and Palestine had been conquered first by Nebuchadnezzar and then afterward by Alexander the Great, that one. Right. Not a different Alexander, the great one.
Yeah.
Okay. Some apply the beginning of this chapter, verses 1 through 7, to the one event, and then some to the other event.
Okay.
I think that it's pretty much the Babylonian thing is what we're talking about, but you get Christians that will argue otherwise.
Sure.
Because they want it to mean more. So it has to be one or the other. And I forget which one is more meaningful to them, but like whatever. Whichever one means that it was future telling and God had a hand in it, that's the one that they want it to be real bad.
I'm hearing cherry picking, blah, 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 cherry picking.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the cities mentioned in Zechariah chapter 9, verses 1 through 7, they do trace Alexander the Great's march through the Promised Land in 332 through 331 BCE. Okay.
Yeah.
And Alexander's campaign through this region occurred after the Battle of Issus in 333 and before the siege of Gaza in 332 BCE. Okay. So just to give you kind of a time period of when these things probably happened.
Got it. Okay. And this is in reference to why, like, the people that are probably writing this are writing this and stuff. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. Because it matters as far as like this is talking about judgment of cities. Okay. And so we see then these cities do get taken down. So it matters as far as whether it was foretold or not.
And it matches that. It matches that time that thing that happened without Alexander the Great.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's what I was curious. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not foretold. It was just written later, and they put it back so that it would be foretold.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the prophet Zechariah outlines how Israel will move from its present position in its own land, but still under Persian rule, to full independence, and from there into the era of the Messiah's rule. Okay. So he's like, here's where we were, here's where we are, here's where we're going. And that is basically like what chapter 9 is about. That we were like, what the fuck is happening here?
Sure.
He sees an invading army moving down from the north. First, it conquers the Syrian cities of Hadrach, Damascus, and Hamath. Okay.
Okay.
And again, that is Alexander the Great's path that he took.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So Hadrach, it's referred to as both depending on the translation.
Sure.
That's the valley of Damascus, or a place near to Damascus. And Alexander the Great gained possession of Damascus and took all its treasures, but it was without blood, and the city was betrayed to him.
Sure.
Okay.
No, my understanding of Alexander the Great is that he was very much a diplomatic conqueror. I mean, not that he didn't kill people, but he did a lot of diplomacy as well.
Yeah,
so.
he did. And he also tried really hard to use the people's own culture against them in order to conquer them.
Sure.
And then let them keep what they had.
Right.
So he used brainy forces instead of he used brain instead of brawn.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
he was the brain and the Pinky and the brain.
Yes, exactly.
What are we doing today, Pinky?
Yeah, exactly.
We're conquering the world,
Yeah.
Alexander.
Of course. So then the army conquers Phoenician cities of Tyre and Sidon. Okay.
Okay.
And these were the two major cities north of Israel and the land of Lebanon. Lebanon. Tyre was an important commercial city that was thought to be impossible to conquer. I don't know if you remember all that.
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar tried for 13 years to conquer Tyre, but Alexander did it in 7 months by using the rubble from the old city to make a causeway out to the island city. You remember when we talked about him?
Yeah, actually, we talked about that at one point.
Yeah,
so.
That was in one of our Q&As when we were talking about, or no, it wasn't a Q&A, it was one of the book specials when we were talking about Jewish stories, and we covered Alexander the Great.
Right.
And that was one of the things he did was this city was safe because it was surrounded by water, but it was on the ruins of an old city.
Yeah.
And so he used the old city and just like built a causeway on top of it and marched on his elephants right into that city.
Yeah.
So
and I want to cover this again too because we've talked about this in the past too, but Tyre that you're referring to is actually pronounced Tyre.
Oh, I always get that wrong.
Yeah.
Tyre, yeah.
I thought that was the case, but I wanted to double check before I corrected you on it. So.
I always guess it wrong. It is Tyre. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, he did that. He's awesome. I mean, there's a reason that we call him great, and it's because he was.
Right.
Not great in like the so cool man, but like great in the great and awesome Oz. You know, he was able to do great things.
No one had ever seen a conqueror quite like this guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
he was just ultra smart. And, you know, the more that he did, the more that he did. You know?
Yeah.
Like, the more that he did, the more it enabled him to do more. Kind of like it takes money to make money. Well, he had might. And then the more might that he had, the more might that he was able to gain.
Yeah.
So, yeah. From there, the armies moved south down the coastal plain to conquer the Philistine cities of Ashkelon, Gaza, Ekron, and Ashdod. Okay? The Philistine practice of eating unclean food was... that's one of the things that we read that they were going to stop doing.
Right.
Yeah. And we were like, oh, what's that about? And the Philistines are going to become part of Israel as the Jebusites had in the time of David. David. Jesus Christ. David.
Yes, David.
Which was noted in 2 Samuel chapter 5.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And Jerusalem is going to be preserved.
Is it?
Yeah. And then it was.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
When Alexander the Great marched through Lebanon and the Promised Land towards Egypt, he did not conquer or attack Jerusalem. So
interesting.
That quote unquote came true.
But that was probably more political machinations that were going on in the back.
Yes. There's stories about that. Although Jerusalem will come into the enemy's sphere of control, it will not be destroyed. There's stories about that we talked about when we talked about Alexander the Great, one of which is that on the one end, on the end of the Jews, that they were told by God to dress up in all white and to run out and meet him. And because they ran out and met Alexander and they were dressed in all white, for whatever reason, he believed them to be awesome and went and dined with them instead.
Oh.
Okay, so that's on the Jewish end. On his end, he was told by God in a dream that people dressed in white would come out to greet him. And when they did, he was to meet them as equals and to not conquer them. So when that happened, when, he saw these people, he realized that God had come to visit him and that these people were his equals. And so he greeted them as equals and went and dined with them.
I feel like they had a double agent in his employee, and they were like pushing him to if this happens, and then they're reporting back to the Israelites like, hey, he's buying it.
Yeah.
Guys, get your white robes, get out here.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. So because the story goes why wouldn't they be afraid? Everybody around them is, getting conquered, and here's these fools out here dressed in their fancy white clothes, just eager to meet him. And so that was supposed to be what?
There's got to be. I mean, there's got to be more to that story.
Oh, I'm sure.
That
and
either history's not aware of, or that we're not aware of.
That story may not even be true. That's
right,
a legend.
Yeah, sure.
Of why this, regardless of what it was, the city was spared. Mm-hmm. That is a legend as to why.
I often wish that we had someone in our household, or just willing to do this for free with us. That's like a preeminent historical buff for this time period, because there's so much that I just have questions about,
right?
With regard to why this happened, what was this actually, what was going on here,
what else was happening in the world,
correlate,
yeah.
And as much as I've enjoyed going through this Bible with a fresh take, fresh eyes, not knowing anything about it. Now that we're getting deeper into it, I'm starting to want to know more of the context and more of the what's going on in the world, what's going on with these different groups, and what's causing these things to happen in reality. Because
why did really Jerusalem get overlooked? Right. Why did really they not get conquered?
Yeah, no, I mean this isn't you know me, and my second job that I would have been a history teacher.
Absolutely.
And I love history. So my first inclination is not to think that gods did this. It's that there's something that I'm not understanding about the full context of the historical references.
Right.
And maybe there were, dreams and things like that, because these are early humans that were prone to believe odd things because they didn't have as much science, they didn't have as much knowledge, right? But at the same time, there's a lot of power grabbing going on, and it's hard for me to believe he would just pass something up because some dudes in white robes walked out to greet him.
Right.
Yeah. So it's Alexander the Great. We're not talking about Alexander the
stupid.
Right. Yeah.
Alexander the mediocre, Alexander the normal.
So that's why I'm curious about the historical references there. But
yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that it just piqued my interest a little bit.
Sure. So I'm going to read verse 6. We're still in chapter 9. I'm going to read verse 6, which says, "A mongrel people will occupy Ashdod, and I will put an end to the pride of the Philistines." Other translations say a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, as opposed to a mongrel people.
Okay.
And me and you were like, oh, mongrel people, huh? What's that about?
Right.
I guess foreigners, right?
Yeah,
gross. The Hebrew word that's used here traditionally refers to a person of mixed or illegitimate birth, which tracks. That's what the word means.
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't have full standing in the covenant community. Though it's traditionally linked to illegitimacy, the term was also a legal category in post-exilic Judaism for people with uncertain or non-Israelite lineage. So it may not only insult the ruler's bloodline, but also cast them as covenant outsiders.
Interesting.
Unclean or excluded from worship.
It's funny because there's certain sections of the Bible that we've been reading recently that they're saying we're going to bring people into the fold, right? But they still refer to people in very nationalistic and very racist tones, in the Bible with regard to how they treat them.
Yeah. It's like they will allow specific individuals, but still refer to the nationality as other.
Right.
We will allow this person's wife and that person's husband and this our neighbor, our friend. And yes, we love welcoming in the one-on-ones. But that nationality as a whole over there, they are still other. They are still mongrels. They are still not us.
But I just can't get past the idea that depending on how you're looking at this, right, you would think that all people are God's people, right? And that's the general consensus, I think, is people like to push it today, sort of.
Right.
You know?
depending on the Christian, yeah.
Right, yeah. But
it does harken back to, though, that this God was very tribal, and it was only their plot of land.
Yeah, he was a local God.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
You know, when you get right down to the tribalistic aspect of this. So
yeah, it was only one of many.
Right.
And this was only for these people of this particular piece of land.
Yeah.
So the word mongrel also invokes socio-political instability. The ruler of Ashdod is not just illegitimate, but unwanted, alien, and symbolic of divine humiliation. So, like, as God would say, gross. You know, we aren't just calling them gross. God is calling them gross.
But again, to say that God created something, God created that person, right? According to these people.
They're like, but not our God. That's their God over there in their little land.
Well, but then you have to admit that there's other gods.
And back then they did.
Sure. But like, but we're reading this today from a lens where we don't, where, you know, the Jewish people and Christians don't accept that there's other gods, right?
Sure.
So if you're reading it the same way, that with that idea in mind, you have to accept the fact that this guy was created by God, and yet God finds him disgusting. Sure. Right? So like that's
because he's not his chosen one.
It's still weird. It's still
weird.
Really weird.
It is weird. And that's why it makes better sense to acknowledge that, but these people didn't believe in one God. They believed in their God of their land, and that everybody had their own God. And it was a fight of whose God is most powerful.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but I'm never, ever going to read this as the Jews and the Christians today would have me read it, which is one God. I'm not, because that's not the way it was written, and that's not the way these people that wrote it believed.
Right.
So, no. They don't like that person over there because he is a different person. He's in a different tribe. He has a different God.
Yeah.
And his God is as real to them as ours is to us, because these gods all exist and they're all battling at all times for superiority over each other.
Sure.
So he's gross and their God is gross.
Yep.
You know, and that's what they think.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, in this context, it likely refers to a foreign ruler or illegitimate leader, okay? Someone not descended from the original Philistine line and thus not belonging to their heritage or culture. And the idea is that Ashdod will no longer be ruled by its proud native people, but by outsiders or those who have no right to rule, symbolizing humiliation and decline. So, I mean, we got all of that, but it's nice to have it like spelled out.
Right.
And so I have a note that this refers to the mythic conception of Alexander, which is a common tale in classical antiquity that we did not cover, that I found very interesting.
Okay.
Olympias, Alexander's mother.
Yeah.
Apparently, some stories say that she claimed that Zeus Amon or Jupiter Amon, remember during that time period we had the hyphen gods?
Sure.
So, and it depends on whether we're talking about a deity that's blending Greek Zeus or Roman Jupiter with the Egyptian Amun.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, that this Zeus creature or Jupiter creature mixed with the Egyptian god visited her in the form of a serpent or a dragon and impregnated her with Alexander.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this story was used to deify Alexander, suggesting he was semi-divine, not merely human. And from a biblical or moralistic point of view, this could be interpreted as scandalous, mythological, or illegitimate, thus painting Alexander as, quote-unquote, a bastard. Not just in terms of birth status, but also in spiritual or political terms, someone who does not belong ruling the land.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was that story going around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously,
while it lends him credit in certain circles with those gods,
yes,
does not lend him credit with the Israelites.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that can be used both ways. You know, the sword cuts both ways as to whether or not it was a good thing or a bad thing that story was going around about him.
Sure.
Because it could talk about how powerful and awesome he was, or about how, that filthy mongrel is going to be ruling these people now.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
So, then we're going to talk about Zion's future king, the coming king and his deliverance.
The coming king.
The coming king.
All right.
Yeah. That king be coming all over them. Yeah, he does. From this, the prophet passes on to that most eminent instance of God's goodness to his church and people, the sending of the Messiah, whoever that may be.
Whoever. Yeah.
Whoever.
Could be anybody.
Could be anybody.
Yeah.
With an account of the peaceable tendency and great extent of his kingdom. God then declares that he has ratified his covenant with his people, delivered them from their captivity, and restored them to favor. And in consequence of this, victory over their enemies is promised to them in large and lofty terms, with every other kind of prosperity. Okay?
I think if I was a Jewish person, I think I would start having God write down actual written contracts, like that giant 20-foot scroll, and like signing the damn thing, because he makes all these promises that he doesn't seem to really keep over time, and it's just like, I decided I'm going to go ahead and break this one, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you can't just keep, like, you probably have more broken promises than Trump, dude.
I know, it's so true.
I mean, granted, you have more time, but still.
You are a puny god. Just to use the Hulk's words again.
Yes, right.
So, okay, a lowly king is going to come into Jerusalem, the strength and the authority of the Messiah's reign. Okay. History records that an invasion such as the above took place when Alexander's army swept through the region, conquering many of Israel's former enemies, including its current master, Persia. Okay. Although Alexander took control of Jerusalem, he did not destroy it. Okay, so Greek rule may spread over Palestine, but eventually it will be overthrown. God's king will then reign in Jerusalem, though not as a warlike conqueror. He will enter the city in quiet yet royal dignity and establish a worldwide reign of peace.
So I like how they kind of gloss over the fact that they did have Alexander the Great take over their area. Mm-hmm. And they're not being ruled by a mongrel king, but these other areas are.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, well, it's different for us.
It doesn't count
for us.
Because
we had white robes.
Because he didn't knock our buildings down.
Right.
We let him in and had dinner with him.
Right. Yeah. So therefore, we'll fix this. It's just, we got to fix it, you know? He's a nice guy. We don't want him ruling us. But it's only temporary.
But now we're in prophecy land. Okay?
Yeah.
So verse 9 is prophecy. Okay? Rejoice greatly, daughter Zion. Shout, daughter Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. Okay?
Yeah.
And so
you question whether that was a Jesus reference, or whether it's taken as a Jesus reference.
And it is.
It very much is.
It very much is. But we're not talking about that because we're not there yet. Okay.
No, I gotcha.
But
I wanted to point it out because there was some question about it at the time when we went over it. So
no, you're right. You're right, and that's why I'm reading this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the this Messiah king is lowly, but that is not indicated by the animal he rode on. He doesn't ride the triumphant stallion of a conquering general, but the customary mount for royalty coming in peace. This was quite a contrast to the conqueror Alexander the Great. The image of a king riding a donkey is not about humility per se, but about non-militarism. In ancient Near Eastern tradition, donkeys were mounts of peace or civil travel, and horses were for war.
Okay.
So this verse may reflect a longing for leadership that doesn't rely on violence and is a rebuke of imperial styles of domination.
But is it possible? And I'm just curious because, we're talking about quote-unquote prophecies here, right? Mm-hmm. And we already talked about how the Israelites went out with white robes to greet Alexander the Great and all that kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't it possible that this guy showed up on a donkey to indicate that he's not going to act warlike, right?
Yeah,
and then that story got turned into a prophecy that they wrote into previous books to make it seem like this was prophesized.
Yeah.
Right? And at the time, they all knew this, but now it's kind of been lost to history.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's what happened exactly.
But
I'm
it's
saying,
just as
like,
plausible.
That's just as plausible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
to me, I like the whole prophecy side of this thing, to me, has been proven wrong over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, you can trace the writing of the stuff that's happening when they're prophesizing to a time when that stuff has already happened.
Exactly.
And then they insert it back into a book where it was before it happened.
Sure.
And it's just kind of bullshit all the way through.
It's not kind of bullshit.
It
It's
is
total bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
And people didn't know enough to read, unless you were a scholar and studied this stuff in depth, you didn't know enough to know that this stuff is how this was all happening.
Right.
Right. So it was easy to manipulate people and say, look, this was already prophesized. Right.
Yeah.
And so these things were just easy to fit into a narrative that they wanted to keep going forward. And as long as it was relevant to the people at the time, here's a story that makes sense to them. Our God caused this. Our God's doing this. It's a way to ease what's happening with their people at the time in a prophecy that says this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just wait. God's got us.
Yep.
We're going to make it through this, right? And I feel like this is all. It's still political. It's still political because
definitely.
They're teaching their people that this stuff was already in the books.
Yeah, this was always going to happen this way.
Yeah.
So to repeat part of that verse, on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. This seems to be a Hebrew expression of speech emphasizing that the animal is purebred, a truly magnificent and royal mount.
Or ass.
Or ass. Yeah.
Sure.
So then moving to the next verse, verse 10, I will take away the chariots from Ephraim and the war horses from Jerusalem, and the battle bow will be broken. He will proclaim peace to the nations. His rule will extend from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth. Okay? The prophet doesn't just describe peace, he describes disarmament. In a region constantly plagued by military threats, this is a really visionary reversal of normalcy.
Yeah.
No more war machines and peace extending from sea to sea. This would definitely feel utopian to an audience used to constant imperial conquest. Assyria, Babylon, Persia.
Right.
They would be welcoming this. They would be very excited.
Well, and my understanding of Alexander the Great is that he felt very much like that.
Yeah.
Like that was it, not to everybody, I'm sure.
Right.
But to many people, he was a welcoming, peace bringing conqueror that was just kind of bringing the whole area together and bringing stability to that area.
Sure.
Yep.
So now that he has pointed to the climax of Israel's glory through the reign of the Messiah, the prophet returns to the time of Alexander, even though, you and I know, he was always talking about Alexander.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
He shows that God will set his people free according to the covenant he made with them at Sinai. So verse 12 reads, "Return to your fortress, you prisoners of hope. Even now I announce that I will restore twice as much to you." So the phrase prisoners of hope is unique in scripture and rich in theology. It suggests a paradox. People still bound by circumstances, perhaps exile or oppression, yet bound more tightly to a future promise. It could be a spiritual call to return to hope despite disappointment.
Got it.
So, prisoner of hope.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right.
Through war comes peace. Israel is going to become a weapon in God's hand to slaughter its enemies. Slaughter, love that. And thereby carry out God's judgment upon the nations. On gaining its freedom, the nation will settle down to a life of security, joy, and prosperity. Okay, so that was chapter 9, which I feel a lot better about now, understanding what the fuck.
No, definitely.
Okay, so now we're in chapter 10. The promise of prosperity and plenty in the close of the preceding chapter leads the prophet to suggest next the means of obtaining them. The supplication to Jehovah and not to idols, whose worship had already proved a fertile source of calamities. Okay. So now we're going to talk about why y'all got here.
Right.
And, again, how much you suck and need to change. Okay.
Yeah.
So the blessed nature of the Messiah's reign. At the time this prophecy was given, the temple had long been finished, and life in Jerusalem was not as it had been previously. Zerubbabel and Joshua had apparently died, and without strong leadership, the Jews drifted into the ungodly ways of neighboring nations. Remember, we said, like, oh, there they go again.
Right, yeah.
You know,
it's a constant theme.
Like, not even like a chapter later, they're already at it again.
Right.
You know, they suck. Some were using idolatrous objects as magic charms in the belief that these would bring good rains and good crops. And Zechariah tells them to stop such practices and to trust in God alone. Diviners consulted the spirits of common household idols to predict the future. God warns his people that there is no real help from either idols or their representatives. The people had listened to false and deceptive leaders, and part of the reason was the lack of godly leadership.
I really feel bad for these people because they've been through so much shit, and they just keep, being bounced from this place to that place, and they've been, there's all these different gods and all these different things. They just want
to grow their fucking crops.
Like, guys, I just want it to fucking rain. Can you make that happen?
Yeah,
like I don't care.
All the time, that's all it always comes to. I just want to grow my fucking crops.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't care what you call it.
I have said for years that I don't give a fuck. If there's a God, I don't care. But as long as he's not a dick. But this guy, he's kind of a dick.
He's a dick.
You will only worship me. You will. I'm like, get over yourself, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
It doesn't need to always be about you.
Right.
For reals.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be better than that. And
definitely.
You're not.
Right.
Yeah. So this is about them just trying to, like, pray for rain, and Zechariah's like, you guys stop using your idols, you sons of bitches. Diviners consulted the spirits of common household idols to predict the future. Is it going to rain tomorrow? What about Friday?
Right.
What about next week?
Yeah,
maybe next month? When are we getting rain?
It's too bad they didn't have Doppler radar back then,
It's true.
Yeah.
God warns his people that there is no real help from either idols or their representatives.
Yeah.
The people had listened to false and deceptive leaders, and part of the reason was the lack of godly leadership. So he's like really getting onto the leadership in this chapter, less than the people. Okay?
Sure, but it still affects the people.
No, yeah, but he's less mad at the people than he is the leaders here.
Right.
Some people think that the idols and diviners were those of the Seleucid Greeks.
Okay.
I forget how to pronounce that word because it's really hard. But the Greeks. Because the Greeks are coming in around this time.
Yeah.
And they were excited that their masters, who excited their masters with promises of success against the Maccabees.
Okay.
So this is like right before the Maccabees is coming.
Yeah.
And so the Greeks are like, hey, we have some great gods and this is cool. Why don't you pray to our gods?
Right.
They might bring you some rain or whatever.
Yeah.
So verse 1 of chapter 10 reads, ask the Lord for rain in the springtime. It is the Lord who sends the thunderstorms. He gives showers of rain to all people and plants of the field to everyone. Now that's our interpretation, our translation. There's other translations that say, ask the Lord for rain in the after season.
Okay.
And remember how there's like different seasons of rain, and there's like first rain and later rain or something like that.
Sure.
And it just means springtime. So that's why ours says spring. Okay.
Right.
The other season would be fall, I believe.
Got
it.
Okay.
So this isn't just about meteorological blessing, though. Okay. Rain is literally life in these agrarian societies. By commanding them to ask God directly for rain, Zechariah is reasserting God's direct involvement in the people's well-being, undermining any lingering belief that nature is governed by magic or other deities. And in
because
referencing
God's not magic,
Yeah, exactly. And in referencing the spring rain, or in other translations, the latter rain, which was crucial for the final stages of crop growth, he was symbolizing not just material sustenance, but spiritual revival as well. So he's like not just talking about the crops growing in the spring, but like people renewing their faith this spring.
So back then, people's faith was dependent on whether or not their crops were able to grow and whatnot. And today, people's faith are dependent on whether they can find their keys or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or whether their cat's water fountains work.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. That kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So God is not only judging the people's idolatry, but also holding leadership accountable for their failure to shepherd the flock. So that's what I said. He's like, you leaders are in big trouble. You are very bad and naughty.
Right.
He's angry with Israel's leaders who have no concern for the people they rule. So God will replace them with strong, stable, dependable leaders who in God's strength will overthrow the ruling power.
Got it.
Or so the prophecy says. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the rest of the chapter, like the preceding one, promises to the Jews a restoration to their own land under rulers and governors, victory over their enemies, and much increase and prosperity. Okay? And this is a manner so miraculous. He does this in a manner that is so miraculous that it is described by allusions to the deliverance from Egypt. So remember what, not allusions, like alluding to.
Okay.
So like, remember when we were like, oh my goodness, God like never lets it go. He's always talking about, remember that time when I took you out of Egypt?
Yes.
Remember
Always,
how I made you stop
forever.
being
Yeah,
slaves?
right.
Yeah, that's why. Because he's like, remember how powerful I am. It was less about remember what I did for you so much as that it's a remember how powerful I am. Remember how I'm great and awesome.
Yeah.
So that's what that was about.
I mean,
okay?
he keeps referencing that, but like, again, it probably never happened.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. Jews who are still scattered throughout the lands supposedly are going to be returning to their homeland where they will live in confidence and joy under God's protection. Okay, so Israel's going to be strengthened. This is a symbolic weight in naming both Judah and Ephraim. Judah represents the southern kingdom, which returned from exile, while Ephraim symbolizes the northern tribes largely dispersed and quote-unquote lost after Assyria. The promise here isn't just about geographic return, but also about national reunification, something that hadn't been the case since the divided kingdom post-Solomon.
Right.
That's pretty radical in a post-exilic context.
Sure.
I mean, it's still radical today.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
This seems to envision a future where both northern and southern kingdoms are fully restored, reversing centuries of division.
Okay.
Centuries. Like, you could say that today. Centuries of division.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
2 millennia of division. Because isn't like 1,000 years is a millennia, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Israel is going to gather into the land from across the earth, okay? Supposedly,
right.
you know. The movement of people to the promised land will be like the migration from Egypt to Canaan in the time of Moses. Okay.
Okay.
That's what he's saying. There's going to be a great migration.
So what I'm hearing is it's going to take 40 years.
Something not like that. Yeah. In response to God's grace, his people will worship and obey him. So I'm going to read verse 10, okay?
Yeah.
I will bring them back from Egypt and gather them from Assyria. I will bring them to Gilead and Lebanon, and there will not be room enough for them. Remember, we were laughing because we were like, then you measured badly.
Right.
Yeah. Egypt and Assyria here aren't necessarily literal. They may represent symbolic poles of exile. Egypt southwest and Assyria northeast could be standing in for all the lands of dispersion. But there's also historical resonance. Egypt was the site of Israel's original enslavement, while Assyria scattered the northern tribes.
Sure.
So,
yeah,
you know, both.
Right.
Really. Okay. So now we move into chapter 11. Okay.
Yep.
This chapter is a literary reversal from restoration to rejection. He's like, I'm going to bring you all together. And then he's like, just kidding. Fuck you all.
Right.
In chapter 10, God is calling his people back. In chapter 11, he's handing them over. This structural pivot is dramatic and intentional.
Okay. All right.
So in the first part of the chapter, the commencement relates to the destruction of Jerusalem and the Jewish polity, probably by the Babylonians, at least in the first instance, as the 4th verse speaks of the people thus threatened as the prophet's charge. The prophet then gives an account of the manner in which he discharged his office and the little value that was put on his labors. And this he does by symbolic actions, a common mode of instruction with the ancient prophets. Okay, and this was really confusing to us when we were reading it. We were like, what is fucking happening right now?
Right.
But Zechariah was putting on these plays for the people.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to break these down a little bit better. Okay.
Yep.
And I only knew this at the time because I had taken the notes.
Sure.
Right? But even at that, I was still really confused. So that's part of why I wanted to do this Q&A so that we could try to put this chapter in particular, but 9 and 10 into some context as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So as for bad leaders, their judgment is certain no matter how great and mighty they think themselves to be. They increase their power and wealth by oppressing the people without mercy, and therefore God will punish them without mercy. Will punish them without mercy.
Right.
He's like, you were bad, I'm going to be bad back. As he does, because he's a petty little bitch.
Right.
His judgment will be like a raging fire sweeping through the proud forest, where not even the strongest and fiercest animals will escape. And okay, so this gets into the trees. You remember there were the trees, and you were like, they probably represent the people. You were onto something. You weren't totally right, but you weren't totally wrong either. Okay.
Right. Yep.
So let's read verse 1 again. Open your doors, Lebanon, so that fire may devour your cedars.
Right.
And I had pointed out, wait, wasn't like all the great wood from Lebanon? Oh, that's so sad. Like all the cedars came from there.
Right.
So we were like talking about the trees and stuff and how sad that was.
Yeah.
And then you were like, I don't think he's talking about actual trees, babe. I think he's talking about people.
Right.
And I'm like, but the trees though. Okay. So this describes the coming of destructive armies of judgment from the north through Lebanon.
Always from the north.
Always from the north.
Right.
That's where the Gog and Magog and Magog live. You know, the great monsters of the north.
Yes.
The doors of Lebanon are the mountain passes between Lebanon and Israel.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize, like on a map, that makes sense.
Right.
So the cedar trees illustrate Lebanon's strength. Once they fall, the lesser forests of cypress and oak will also be destroyed. And so that's why in the later verses, they will also wail.
Got it. Okay.
So when the lesser trees or see that the great trees are falling, the lesser trees that aren't as cool, the wood that's not as cool is going to be sad. But again, that's also the people.
But we're talking about nations.
Both.
Yeah, right.
Both. Yeah. But Lebanon also signifies the temple itself because it was built of materials principally brought from that place.
Right.
So finally, the cedar, cypress, and oak also represent tiers of social and political hierarchy.
Okay.
Not just the strength of Lebanon.
Interesting.
Yeah. Some scholars suggest that these trees metaphorically point to high-ranking figures, cedars, and progressively lower ones, the cypress and the oaks.
Okay. All right.
So not just the nations, but the nation's leaders.
It's technically more disparagement of the people in charge.
Yes.
Is that kind of what we're getting at?
Yes, but also shit rolls downhill. Also,
right.
You know, that kind of thing. So it's like multi-layered, like a fucking Mexican dip.
Sure.
You know?
Right.
Like 7-layer dip. Oh man, that stuff is good.
Yeah.
All right. So then Zechariah starts acting out a prophecy of judgment.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is where we were like, I don't even understand what is happening right now.
It was not
because
good.
it didn't specifically say that.
No, it was really bad.
It was very badly written, poorly presented to dum-dums like us. You know, I don't hold myself responsible for the confusion that we held.
No, nor do I.
You shouldn't.
Right.
Okay. So Zechariah demonstrates that judgment in 2 short plays. In these plays, he acts the part of a shepherd, representing the leaders of God's people. In the first play, God told Zechariah to act the part of a good shepherd. I'm a good shepherd. So Zechariah acts out this prophecy, feeding a literal flock of sheep that represents the people of God. As the shepherd, Zechariah represents the Lord, who had appointed this flock for a season of judgment.
Okay.
Zechariah was to look after a people oppressed and exploited by bad shepherds whose sole aim was to enrich themselves. They cared nothing for the flock. God showed Zechariah, however, that his efforts were doomed to failure. Leaders and common people alike were headed for fitting punishment.
Okay. Yeah.
So then we move on into the next few verses, the covenant is symbolically broken. Okay.
Right.
Nevertheless, Zechariah acted out his short drama. Okay.
Yeah.
With a shepherd's stick called grace in some translations. It's also called beauty, favor, or peace.
I think they referred to, they said it was favor in our translation.
I think so. Yeah. But generally, I think most translations refer to it as grace. That's how it's known to most people, I think.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So grace, beauty, favor, peace. Symbolizing the favored status of Israel as the chosen people of God, he tried to give the sheep the beneficial leadership that God desired for them. With another stick called union or unity, bonds, bands, or harmony. So we've got peace and harmony. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Or grace and union.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Symbolizing the internal harmony of the people that was lost at the time of the siege of Jerusalem, he tried to bind them closer to one another in national peace and harmony.
Okay.
He even destroyed the 3 bad shepherds who are not actually 3 individuals, but represent 3 classes of individuals.
Sure.
Okay, so we've got prophets, priests, along with the scribes and the Pharisees, and then the kings and other parts of dictatorship, including the magistrates, the great Sanhedrin, and the smaller councils.
I want to put this in context here a little bit, because we're talking about a quote unquote prophecy that is going to happen from Zechariah's time, that was written during Alexander the Great's time. Ish.
Yeah.
And so, but we're playing a play that Zechariah technically would have done back then to say that something. I mean, this whole thing is so fucked.
It's so fucked.
Like, I'm like, what is even happening here?
Exactly. And he's playing with sticks.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and sheep. And we're supposed to understand his little sock bucket.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Play.
It's fucking weird.
Yeah. So the offices of prophet, priest, and king were taken away from Israel after the Roman conquest of Judea and have never been restored. So that's a partial fulfilling of that prophecy is what we're supposed to take from that.
Oh, okay.
Just FYI.
Got it.
But the rest is, still to come in the days to come.
But there was a time where you liked some of the kings. So then, again, makes very little sense. It just, it's like whatever they want in any given time frame,
Sure. Although, taking this literally, some think that the 3 shepherds mean the 3 Maccabees, Judas, Jonathan, and Simon. So, but we're not there yet, so I don't fucking know.
Right.
Others think of the 3 wicked high priests, Jason, Alcimus, and Menelaus. Again, we're not there yet, so I don't fucking know.
Right.
Still others think of them as the last 3 princes of the Asmonean race, Alexander, Hyrcanus, and Antigonus. Again, I'm not there. I don't fucking know.
Right.
Okay. In return, we're done with that part. Okay. In return for Zechariah's little show, people were very angry with him. I mean, it was a bad show, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it was not. It was just probably the acting. It wasn't necessarily the material.
It was bad material, bad acting.
Shit, man. It's not good.
The whole thing was bad.
Right.
And it wasn't even a musical.
I give it like a 2 out of 5.
Really? That's higher than I was.
Well, back then, I'm saying like there wasn't like a lot of movies.
That is true.
I'm trying to go in context.
At least,
here,
At least they gave us something to talk about.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you a 2.5.
Sure.
2.5 stars out of 10.
Yeah.
They were so far removed from the ways of God that these dudes actually preferred the bad shepherds to the good shepherd. Sure they did.
Yeah.
We love bad leaders. Give us the bad leaders back. Like, that's poor phrasing. Yeah. Did they prefer to be led by bad leaders? Or did they prefer what was happening under who you are calling bad leaders now?
Right.
Yeah. Like nobody just says, I love bad leadership.
My guess is they were doing okay.
Right.
And they didn't really want to shake things up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't blame them.
Whatever.
With all the shit that's happened to them.
Yeah.
Like, can we just let's just leave it alone, guys. Can we just whatever?
Can you just chillax?
Things are going okay.
Like, once again, we've got some prophet just like screaming his fucking head off, ringing his bell over here, and we're just trying to grow our goddamn crops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shut up, dude. Zechariah therefore broke his 2 sticks because they're like, fuck you, stop, you're gross, you're telling us a dumb story and we don't like it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We prefer the bad leader to you. Sure.
Whatever.
So Zechariah therefore broke his 2 sticks to show the people that he would no longer be their shepherd And in bringing judgment by letting the dying die, God merely took away his hand of protection. So
Okay.
he's not protecting them anymore.
So Zechariah was like literally protecting them from God?
No, he was representing God. And so he's like, as I, your shepherd, am tearing these sticks asunder,
Yeah. God is
doing the same to us. I am showing you what God is doing, I say.
Okay. Right, yeah.
I am telling you what I think God wants you to know, which is that I am mad at you poop heads.
I would really just love to be like a fly on the wall for one of these like little, prophecy speeches things that were happening, because I don't understand how they gained so much traction through all of history.
Yeah, same. So anyway, God breaking his covenant and his people being attacked, because at one time God had a covenant with all the people, preventing them from attacking his people Israel. Okay,
right.
When God decided to break the covenant, which he is saying they broke it first.
Yeah, of course.
So,
I mean, you gotta
they broke it first. Right. Mom, they broke the covenant.
I say that God breaks his word all the time, but people will be like, well, it was the people that broke their word first. I'm like, okay.
So God's a petty bitch, but just like I said. Got it.
Again, I just want to point out that God has the ability to change people's hearts and do all kinds of fucking shit that he's proved, according to the Bible, over the course of the Bible, that he just leaves out.
And he's just on
like,
purpose.
Whatever.
I'm going to get you back.
Right.
You little bitches. I'm going to get you back. Because God's a petty little bitch.
And apparently he has no ability to fix people, because he tells us that he fixes people. And then the next sentence is that they fucked up again.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you don't have any power.
Yeah.
Like, you have nothing.
Puny God.
Right.
So anyway, when God decided to break back the covenant, his people would be attacked. And then Christians are like, and that totally happened during the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 of the current era. When the temple was like forever destroyed and all the Jesus-y attacks and stuff, whatever.
Right.
Like, I don't know, whatever. We're not there yet. But still.
But yeah.
They're like, it happened.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, bro.
You throw enough shit at the wall and eventually you're going to, especially when you take those prophecies and you look back on
try to retrofit
and then you
them.
make them fit.
Yeah.
You're making them fit.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah.
So anyway, finishing up chapter 9, 10, 11.
Right, yeah.
Chapter 11.
Yes.
Okay. The shepherd is paid with contempt. Okay. So Zechariah was play acting this prophecy, employing himself as a shepherd over a flock. When he suggested that they might pay him his wages, the people gave him such a small amount that it was an insult. This was especially so since the wages really belonged to God, whom he served.
Oh.
But let's read verse 13 again, okay?
I bet Joel Osteen says the same thing.
Oh, he does. He does. And the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the handsome price at which they valued me. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them to the potter at the house of the Lord. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that.
So he's like, this is an insult, and just threw it away.
Yeah, but we're gonna talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
So Zechariah spoke sarcastically here. 30 pieces of silver was not an insignificant amount, but it was the price of a slave, as spelled out in Exodus chapter 21.
Oh.
So it was the lowest they could pay, and it said that they regarded Zechariah as a slave. They were basically telling him, not only are you of no value, but also we know you know that that's what we think, and we don't fucking care. Boom.
I see.
You're an asshole. We hate you.
So the amount itself was an insult.
Yes. Not just the fact that it was low, but it's like if you leave your waitress a quarter, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's not just that it's low, it's that that's the smallest, not denomination of a dollar, but the smallest, like, actual.
I've known people that served, and some of the older folks that would visit the establishment thought that was still a good tip.
Yeah.
Like they didn't really understand that they were fucking over the person working. Like, they were just like, this is a good tip. This is what I've left for 25 years.
Even though the price of eggs has like fucking quadrupled, you complain about the price of gas quadrupling. It doesn't occur to you that you know that the food is more expensive. You don't tie that into a person's wages, though.
Right.
What?
Right.
A tip is a tip. 25 cents was great in my day.
And I got to be honest, if you had that shitty a service that they don't deserve a tip, then just don't leave a tip. The 25 cents is just much like this.
Yes.
Is more of a fucking insult than not leaving anything.
Yeah. Like, at least if you didn't leave a tip, they can, like, console themselves that you were broke or you forgot or,
Sure.
you know, something.
Yeah, any number of things, right?
Any number of things.
Yeah.
Or they could just roll their eyes and, like, move along.
Yeah.
You
right.
leave a quarter and they have to, like, automatically.
You intentionally left that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Unless you were, like, a kid or something and you left a quarter, and then that could be, like, exciting for a kid, right? And they might, like, you know, yeah.
I mean, if you go into Bob Evans and sit at the breakfast bar and you leave a quarter for just having a cup of coffee, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you go in and have a full fucking breakfast and serving you and, like, there's, like, multiple people and it's not just you, fuck you. Even if it is just you for a full meal.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Just leave nothing.
Honestly.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So Zechariah is speaking really sarcastically here when he says that, okay? Because he knows that they know that he knows.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the term potter's field, because he says throw it to the potter.
Yeah.
Right? So the term potter's field is rooted in the historical practice of using land where clay was extracted for pottery, marking it as a burial ground. Okay.
Right.
These fields were often barren and undesirable, making them a cost-effective option for burial. Then, too, a potter's field was a piece of useless land where the potter threw his broken, damaged, and rejected pots.
Well, if I recall correctly, I think Sheol had broken pottery in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was one of the things that they used for, like, imagery in that, which is almost a reference to, like, hell-ish type stuff.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. So not only are they getting the clay out of this land, but they're also putting the broken pieces back into this land.
Sure. So the imagery with that is significant, probably more to the earlier Jewish people than it is to us.
Exactly.
But,
Exactly. Potter's fields serve as, and we still have potter's fields to this day.
Oh, okay.
They serve as a public burial ground for those who lack the means or family to arrange a private burial. This includes individuals who die without identification, those who are impoverished, or those who are otherwise unclaimed. They are also referred to as a pauper's grave. Yeah.
I've heard that before. I've never heard of a potter's field before.
Yeah,
but that's interesting.
I have to tell you something, husband.
Yeah.
So, do you remember yesterday I sent you a link to a butterfly show that I wanted to go see?
Yes.
Do you know how I found that?
No.
I was looking up, are there potter's fields near us?
Oh.
And what came up is that there was a potter's field in Cincinnati that was moved at some time and is now being overrun by weeds and stuff. And so the city of Cincinnati is asking for help in respecting the graves of these unmarked people, unnamed people.
Yeah.
And, you know, how do we get rid of the weeds and not damage the graves of these unknown people, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
And there's like 20,000 graves there or some shit like that.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. And anyway, so through that, I was on the city of Cincinnati's park website.
Yeah.
And they have this really cool, this is totally off topic now, but I was looking for the potter's field near us.
Yeah.
Okay. And there was one in Cincinnati and it was moved and now they're looking for help with it.
Sure.
And so I'm on that website and I see that they have an event down in Cincinnati called Gothica Botanica. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And it's a fucking butterfly show, but done like seriously done up in Gothic stuff, like Gothic architecture and coloring and aesthetic. And it's an event that you can go to, and it's a butterfly house, and you only get to spend like 45 minutes with the butterflies in there, but it's all like dark and moody.
Right.
And it's like $10 a person. And I'm like, oh, your next day off, we are fucking going to that. So thank you, Potter's Field, for leading me to Gothica Botanica.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, a fun thing to do with my family.
For sure.
Okay. So anyway, Pauper's grave.
Something I would like to talk about probably on one of our specials at some point is our significance placed on grave markers and grave sites, right?
Yeah,
because it makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense either religiously or scientifically.
Right.
And,
well, I mean, I'm sure at this point we have more dead than we have alive for sure, right? So it's whatever.
I've always been
we're going to run out of room, and we can't care for all of them. So like,
I've always been disturbed by graveyards for this exact reason. Like, and I'm talking going back to childhood.
Yeah.
I've been disturbed by graves.
Sure.
I don't understand.
Well, I think that's one of those things. Like, we had when I was younger, we lived in a small town. We played a thing called Ghost in the Graveyard, and it was like, there was always this like significance placed on graveyards that was extra worldly at some level.
Well,
right?
that's really funny. I read something called I can't remember what it's called, but it said that your respect for the dead will show in whether you refer to them as a graveyard or a cemetery. When you're playing around in it and you're running around, it's a graveyard. But if you're visiting somebody that you care about, it's very important and momentous. We're going to visit them at the cemetery.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's one of those like how
the euphemism choice of word matters.
Right.
Where's the dead body buried?
Right. I guess my whole hang up on it is like the amount of significance we give to dead bodies, right?
Yeah.
Like essentially it's a very archaic and not rooted in logic idea that we hold as a society. And I love the idea of the natural burials and like things where you don't take up space in the world when you die, because whole fields dedicated to dead people is just weird to me.
Right.
It's fucking weird.
No, I've always felt that way.
Yeah.
I'm glad that the world is coming to my appreciation of that weirdness.
Right.
Because I was the weird one when I was a kid for being weirded out by dead. Like people were like, but that's where your relatives are buried. And I was like, I don't really know my relatives, so I don't have a lot of emotional significance to that.
It's not like visiting their gravestone because of like emotional ties to that person is significant. But maybe, if we look at it another way, visiting a place where you had a great time together is also an emotional tie to that person, right?
Or maybe like going through a ritual that you shared with them. Maybe you guys always went to lunch at a Chinese food place.
I like that idea better because it's actually a remembrance of them as opposed to the thought of they're dead and right here.
Yeah, exactly.
To me, the remembrance is more important than the...
Why does it got to be tied to where their bones are?
Right.
That's what I don't get.
Yeah.
Like, and if it does, why does it? I don't know. Whatever.
I mean, you just burn me up so I don't come back as a zombie.
I know
you're scared to death of zombies.
I'm scared
I don't
of
want to be the
zombies.
zombie that kills you.
Right?
So
yeah, I don't want to be a zombie, and I don't want zombies to kill me.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm like, just throw me in a ditch, but definitely cut my head off first, and like maybe circle me with salt so my ghost doesn't come back either.
Just in case, Right.
Yeah. So, not to mention, have you heard that all of the dead bodies, like all of the like formaldehyde and the toxins and chemicals that we put into burying the bodies are starting to destroy the water table?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which that makes sense.
Right.
You put all this shit in the planet. What the fuck did you expect? It's just going to fucking sit there? That's not what happens. The
multitude of other things we're doing to destroy the world, right?
People are a fucking pestilence on the planet.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, Pauper's grave. So Zechariah knew that the people preferred the sort of society where the greedy could get what they wanted by exploiting others. And in the end, such a society would destroy its own self. Mwah, 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 mwah. Okay.
Yep.
So now we're coming up on the end of chapter 11. Okay. After the prophet had broken the two crooks, which were the true badges of his pastoral office, to denote the annulling of God's covenant with them, he is directed to take instruments calculated to hurt and destroy, to express the judgments which God was about to inflict on them by wicked rulers and guides who should first destroy the flock and in the end be destroyed themselves. Okay. So God's now going to allow the foolish shepherds to come to his people. So in the second play, Zechariah played the part of a bad and foolish shepherd, the sort of shepherd Israel wanted, who did not care for the sheep, the way that the shepherd should.
Yeah.
And this cruel and selfish leadership was what the people deserved and would be God's means of punishing them. The worthless shepherd feels the sword of God's punishment against his arm and his right eye. Okay, and we were like, that's very specific and weird.
Right, yeah.
Right? So the arm expresses strength. Okay.
Right.
And the eye expresses intelligence, because remember that's how they... Remember when we did a thing about the symbolism of eyes throughout history?
Yeah.
And like one of the things that we uncovered is that the eye was how they observed and took in information.
Sure.
So their very observing of things was what they tied to intelligence.
Yeah.
So when you see like the eye, it's like tied with wisdom.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Not the brain, the eye.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the arm expresses strength and military might, that kind of thing. And the eye expresses intelligence, symbolizing military failure and moral blindness.
Okay.
Okay, so that makes it make a little bit more sense.
Right.
And I remember at the time we even said, I'm sure that there's a reason behind like the right arm and the right eye, but not the foot, not the ball sack, not the nose. This is that reason.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
And this poetic justice also suggests that power will be punished by the same strength it abused. So this will be a harsh blow against the worthless shepherd.
Okay.
The end.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I have one more thing to add that is also off topic. While I was looking at the names of the two sticks, Peace and Harmony,
Right.
or whatever
Whatever they are.
Yeah, I will never remember them as anything but Peace and Harmony
Sure.
now. I recalled that the two lions that sit in front of the New York Public Library are named something.
Oh.
And I was like, are they named something like Peace and Harmony or some shit like that from the Bible? Yes, they are named something, but no, not these things.
Okay.
They are named Patience and Fortitude.
Ah.
And they are named that because
I was really hoping for Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted would be great.
Yeah, right.
But they were named that because the city would require both of those attributes.
Got it.
And those lions are used now in all of the New York Public Library's logos and stuff.
Got it. Yeah.
Which, patience and fortitude. Patience is the one as you're facing the building. Patience is the one on the left, and fortitude is the one on the right. And they are not from the Bible, and that is cool. The end.
All right. Well, that was our Q&A for Zechariah chapters 9 through 11. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, we might not be back for a few days just because of circumstances. So, you know, I know we've been a little flaky here of late, and we're going to try to do better. But right now, because of everything going on, we unfortunately don't have the ability to do that. So
hang with us.
Hang with us, and we will be back soon. And thank you, as always, for being a fan. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Hey, wife, I guess that's the end?
But husband, that's just sad.
It doesn't have to be. We are on lots of social media platforms like Twitter. Our handle there is sacrilegious_D.
For D's nuts.
Oh my God. Stop doing that. Anyway, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. There's a link to all of our social media sites at our website.
Ooh, we have a website?
Yeah, it's sacrilegiousdiscourse.com, where you can also find a link to our merch shop.
We have a merch shop?
Yep, we have podcast-themed clothing, mugs, notebooks, and more, as well as an atheist and science-themed products.
Wow, our fans should really go check that out right now.
Definitely. They can get in touch with us by sending an email to sacrilegiousdiscourse@gmail.com. But before they do that, we could really use some help.
Oh yeah? With what?
Well, it's not free running the podcast, and we need some financial support in order to get better equipment, which will free up time so we can concentrate on our podcast and our fans.
Okay, so what should they do?
Head over to patreon.com/sacrilegiousdiscourse and sign up as a contributor on our podcast. Supporters there receive additional bi-weekly episodes that we record just for our Patreon members for as little as $2 a month.
Also, we'd really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe on whatever platform you're using.
And Apple Podcast reviews help us out tremendously.
Like and subscribe. Leave an Apple review. Join us on Twitter. Support us on Patreon. That's a lot of instructions. Don't forget to say thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.